Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, True Crime and Felines. For those of you that are new here, my name is Brandy and every Friday I bring you a true crime case or mystery with one or more of my fabulous felines. I wanted to make sure that the little girl got on camera. You guys missed her last week, so this is Darth Kittius. She's been a little stubborn, not eating like she should, but we're working with the vet to make sure that she gains weight, but rest assured she's ornery as ever. So she will probably want to go run and play and not be on camera, but I just wanted to make sure that she said hi to everyone. Do you want to sit here? You gonna sit here in the bed? Nope, we're gonna take off. For my returning subscribers, welcome back, my feline friends, and a big shout out to my feline fans who are members of this channel. Thank you for your support. So this week's case happened in Oklahoma, and it's about a family that just up and disappeared, and leaving authorities baffled on what could actually have happened to this family. So let's get started. So the Jamison family lived in Oklahoma. The family consisted of Bobby, who was 44, Sherry Lynn, who was 40, and their daughter Madison, who was 6 years old. Now the Jamison family was a little off. I mean, they kind of alienated their neighbors and they were just kept to themselves. Now, they lived in town at the time, but had been looking at this 40-acre plot of land to buy. And they had this big, giant storage shed. It looked like a shipping container on their property. And they were going to move that out to that 40-acre plot of land and live in that until they could, build a house or whatever. So on October 8th, 2009, the family had packed up to go out to this 40-acre plot of land to either finalize some things or look at where they're going to put their storage shed. So all the family got in the truck, including their dog, Maisie. So the family first met with an associate who owned the land to kind of finalize some deals or talk about, buying the land. Then after the meeting, the family got in their truck and kind of drove into the land a little bit. Then they took their GPS. They had this mobile GPS unit, and they just went for a short walk. They were gone about 15 minutes and then came back. They got into the truck and they drove further down the road and into the land and then got out of the truck again. And that was the last time that the family was seen. Now, during the family's initial disappearance, friends and family weren't that concerned because apparently this family was regular for just dropping off the radar for a week or two and then coming back. And they also had pulled their 6-year-old daughter Madison out of school, so the school wasn't missing Madison either. But as the days went on, it's unclear if family did alert the authorities or if the family's truck was found and that's what alerted authorities that this family was missing. So on October 17th, 8 days after the family was last seen, the Jamison's truck was found. So the truck was found kind of off the side of this dirt road on some land, and some hunters had found it. And the hunters reported that the truck had actually been there for several days. And they decided to report it since it seemed weird. So the authorities got there and they realized that the truck was locked and they had to break into it. Now inside the truck was Maisie, the family's dog. Now she was alive, albeit very hungry and very thirsty. Now remember, this happened in October, so it wasn't ungodly hot out, thank God. But Maisie was immediately taken to get treatment. They also discovered that the truck, there was nothing wrong with it. It was in working order. It had plenty of fuel. It wasn't wrecked. There was no flat tires. So it was weird how the truck just seemed to be abandoned. So searching inside the truck, they would find Bobby and Sherry Lynn's IDs, their wallets, the purse, their mobile phones, and the GPS unit, the mobile GPS unit that they were using. However, what was weird is that they ended up finding $32,000 in cash stuffed under the seat of the truck. Now, the Jamisons were actually on like disability benefits. Neither one of them had a job. So having this amount of money, especially in cash, was very unusual. Now, authorities would go to the Jamisons' house that was, in town and search there as well. And they found that they had security cameras on the outside of their house. And so they looked at that footage to kind of try to get some hints on what was going on. And in that footage, there's Bobby and Sherry Lynn is, going back and forth between the house and the truck, packing things for this little trip, apparently. They see things like there is a brown briefcase that Sherry Lynn puts in the pickup, but that brown briefcase was never found. Family and friends also stated that Sherry Lynn had a .22 pistol that she always kept under the seat of her truck, and that was gone as well. And those two things were never recovered. So the questions arose of what happened and why would this family just disappear like this? Did they mean to do this, or did something else happen to them? So authorities tried to put together these pieces of the puzzle, and this is what they did know. Back in 2003, Bobby was involved in a car accident that really messed up his back. So from then on, he always had chronic back pain and was on medication for it. And that's what made him get on disability. Sherry Lynn had suffered from bipolar disorder and was on medication for that, but was not very good about being on her meds all the time. So because she was poorly managing it, she had severe bouts of depression. Sherry Lynn didn't have a job either, so she was on disability as well. So as you can imagine, money was very tight, and it put a strain on the marriage. Family and friends had stated that the marriage was not good most of the time. Now, some people considered the Jamisons scammers. They liked to sue people, apparently. The Jamisons were actually in a ongoing lawsuit with 3 different people about a car crash from 2005, which would have been a different car crash from the one Bobby was in. They also apparently were taking legal action against the school that Madison was in, and hence why they had pulled Madison out of it. Then it gets weirder. A local pastor would come forward and tell authorities that on separate occasions, the Jamisons would confide in him that they thought their house was haunted, that they believed that there was evil spirits that were infesting their house. They tell the pastor that Madison began speaking to her, invisible friend, her imaginary friend, and her imaginary friend was named Emily. Now, although it's very common for children that age to have imaginary friends, Sherry Lynn believed that this Emily was actually a bad spirit, an evil spirit. At one point, Bobby had even asked the pastor if there were any special bullets that he could buy so he could shoot the spirits that were apparently living on his roof. Bobby had also bought a satanic Bible and planned to use that to exorcise the spirits out of their home. Now, a friend of Sherry Lynn would tell authorities that her and Sherry Lynn would often hold seances, and Sherry Lynn would take these way more seriously than her friend did. Now, both family and friends would say, though, that there would be weird things going on at that house, and they actually didn't like being there. Some felt like a presence that left them feeling very down and depressed, and others would just say that odd things would happen that you couldn't explain. Aside from paranormal things, there were events that happened leading up to this family's disappearance. For example, Sherry Lynn had a few cats, and apparently some of these cats, specifically the black cats that she had, either disappeared or she found them dead. I'm not quite sure. but she would blame the neighborhood for poisoning her cats. And that big storage shed that there was on their property, they were going to move out to that plot of land and live in. Sherry Lynn had actually spray painted on the side of that storage shed that witches do not like it when their cats are killed. This behavior obviously alienated their neighbors, and so the neighbors avoided them, which the family preferred because they liked to stay to themselves anyway. Now, another event that happened shortly before the family's disappearance is that Sherry Lynn actually had a 12-year-old son from a previous marriage, and his name was Colton. So in July of 2009, which was about 4 months before the family disappeared, Sherry Lynn's ex-husband took custody of Colton, and this would further put a strain on the family's finances because she was no longer getting child support for him. Now, Colton, when questioned, stated that he did talk to his mother 2 weeks prior to the family's disappearance, and his mother never ever mentioned that they were moving to this plot of land. So authorities began to thinking maybe this moving thing was a last minute decision. And then in September of 2009, a month before the family disappeared, Sherry Lynn had attempted to take her own life. Now, she did survive and was hospitalized. So there was a lot going on with this family, and putting all these pieces together was very hard. So while checking the contents inside of the truck that they found, they checked the mobile phones. The weirdest piece of evidence that they really couldn't explain is that on November 12th, there was an outgoing call from Bobby's phone to his voicemail. Now, this would have been a month after the family had disappeared, and the phone was supposedly in this truck locked the whole time. Now, it was stated, since the dog was locked in the truck as well, that the dog could have just stepped on it just right and called the voicemail. So even after very exhaustive searches, over 400 volunteers helping in the search, cadaver dogs, drones, ATVs, you name it, the case hit a dead end. They were unable to find the family or what happened to them. So the case grew cold. Then, on November 16th, 2013, 4 years after the family disappearance, 2 hunters came across some skeletal remains. The location of the remains was a little less than 3 miles from where the abandoned truck was found 4 years earlier. Authorities were called, and they determined that the remains were of 2 adults and a child. The remains were actually lined up on the ground, and they were face down. So through forensic testing and DNA, they were able to confirm that these remains were Bobby, Sherry Lynn, and Madison. Now, the cause of death could not be determined because there was really no soft tissue left. There wasn't really anything they could find on the skeletal part of the body except for Bobby. There was a hole in Bobby's skull that some say could have been a bullet, but others say could have been made by the animals. As the bodies decomposed, the wilderness, the animals kind of came in and, feasted on them. So now that they found the bodies, but they couldn't really make a determination on how they died, all these theories started to emerge on what could have happened and what else they learned about the family in their investigation. Now, buckle up, guys, because there are a lot of theories and they go all different directions. So the first theory is the most simplest, that the family went for a walk, they got lost on the land because they didn't know it very well and they had left their GPS in the truck, and ended up dying of hypothermia in the October weather. The problem with this theory is that Bobby had a really bad back. There is no way he was going to walk almost 3 miles on a hike in a mountainous, hilly area as well. Also, if you were going to go for a walk, why would you leave the family dog in the car? It just appeared that the family was going to be away for a short time from their truck and come back. So the next theory was a murder-suicide. They stated that in the truck they found a 11-page hate letter that Sherry Lynn apparently wrote to her husband. And in that letter, Sherry Lynn stated everything from you don't care about your daughter, you're a loner, you're a hermit, and she wanted a divorce. So one of the theories is that Sherry Lynn took her .22 pistol and shot Bobby and Madison and then took her own life. Now there was that small hole in Bobby's skull, but they were unable to find any seemingly gunshot in Sherry Lynn or Madison. However, the bodies were pretty much skeletal, so there was no soft tissue. So it's possible, Sherry Lynn had shot Madison in the stomach and shot herself in the stomach, and they just bled out. However, the gun was never found. So if Sherry Lynn really did that, you think the gun would be beside the bodies as well. The next theory was that the Jamisons were in a satanic cult and apparently on some sort of hit list. Sherry Lynn's mother stated that her daughter or family somehow got mixed up with this cult and got put on a hit list. However, Sherry Lynn's mother didn't know the cult's name, what the cult was about, and police were never able to find any evidence that the Jamison family was involved in any type of cult. The next theory was that it was a drug deal gone wrong. So the land where the Jamisons' remains were found, very well known for drug activity, specifically meth labs. Bobby had actually reported a meth lab to the authorities shortly before his disappearance when they first looked at the land. So some people thought maybe they saw Bobby and got revenge on him while he was there on October 8th, 2009. Other people say that because Bobby and Sherry Lynn were having so much money problems that they decided to start selling drugs. And that when they went out there with all that cash to either buy drugs or they had just got done selling drugs and then something bad happened. However, the bad part of this theory again is why would you take your 6-year-old daughters to something so dangerous? However, if the Jamisons were on drugs themselves, that could affect their thinking process and their judgment. But again, authorities, besides the $32,000 in cash that they found in the truck, they found no evidence that Sherry Lynn or Bobby was either dealing or doing illegal drugs. Some people thought that $32,000 in cash had came from somewhere else, and that was the cash they were going to use to buy the land. And the other theory is that if they were taken out by drug dealers, why wasn't valuables taken from the truck, like cell phones and all that stuff, and the $32,000 in cash under the seat? I'm sure it would be easy to find. So the next theory is that Bobby's dad took out the family. So authorities actually in their investigation found out that Bobby and his father were actually in a very bitter lawsuit over a business deal. And Bobby's father allegedly threatened the family. So Bobby took out a restraining order on his father. This all came about over a business dealings over a gas station. Apparently Bobby's dad owned the gas station and Bobby worked there for years for free. And the trade-off was that when his dad sold the gas station, Bobby was to get half or some of that money from the sale. Apparently Bobby's dad sold the gas station and Bobby didn't see a dime, so he sued his father over it, and the fighting began. Bobby reported that in November of 2008, his father actually tried to run him over with his car, and thus that's when the restraining order came about. Bobby had stated his father was very dangerous and thought he was above the law and was into meth, drugs, prostitutes, gangs, you name it. And authorities did find some connection to the Mexican mafia. However, at the time of the family's disappearance, Bobby's dad had been in very poor health, in and out of the hospital and in and out of like nursing homes, rest homes. And he actually passed away 2 months after the family went missing. Investigators stated that they did believe that Bobby's dad did not have anything to do with the family's disappearance, and there was no evidence that he put like a hit out on the family where somebody else would have done it. So now here's where the theories get weirder. The next theory was that a white supremacist group took out the family. So the family had a friend named Kenneth that actually lived with the family for a time. Now, Kenneth found out apparently that Sherry Lynn had some Native American ancestry in her. And apparently Kenneth was very racist and just started berating Sherry Lynn for this. One of the arguments got so heated and so out of hand that Sherry Lynn had grabbed her gun, shot at Kenneth at the ground by his feet, and said, "Get the hell out of my house." Now, police were able to, rule Kenneth out because he had a solid alibi, but that doesn't mean that any of his connections couldn't have done it. But it's a little far-fetched that something like that would be so prevalent that a whole group would take out a family. The next kind of out there theory was that the whole family was kidnapped in order for a creepo to get to Madison. So when the phones were examined, there was this picture that was believed that it was the last picture of Madison taken the day the family disappeared. And in the picture, Madison looks upset or crying or mad, and she has her arms crossed. Now, really, this can mean anything, but some people have stated that this picture was not taken by Bobby or Sherry Lynn, but maybe by some creep who was about to prey on her and had taken out the family just to get to Madison, and then when he or she was done, took out Madison as well. So finally, the last theory is that the family is very much alive and had been placed into the witness protection program. That maybe because of the drug activity and the meth lab that Bobby turned in, it could have been some larger, kingpin type drug thing that Bobby and the family stumbled into by accident by reporting it. And so they had to be taken into witness protection, and that this whole discovery of the bodies was just a big ruse to make the drug dealers or the kingpin think that the family was dead. I'm sure there are other theories out there, but those were the main ones that I could find. Now, this case is still a mystery, and there is a lot of debate over if the family was murdered, if it was an accident, or if they are still alive and this was all planned, that they could escape their life that they were in. I know some of you are concerned about Maisie the dog, but please know she did make a full recovery, and Bobby's mother adopted her and she had a great life. So what are your thoughts on this case? It's crazy, right? Do you think the family was taken out? Do you think they planned this? Or do you think it was an accident or a murder-suicide? I would love to hear what you think in the comments down below. If you would like to become a feline friend, please hit that subscribe button. And if you would like to become a feline fan, please join this channel. And I will make sure you get more cuteness like this. And we will be back next Friday with another true crime case or mystery. Say bye, dog kitties. Bye, guys.